So when I was in law school, I had an opportunity to work for a firm that actually did municipal prosecutions, and I really hadn't thought about criminal law until I had an opportunity to work with the municipal prosecutor on a case that was pretty complex. It was a menacing by stalking case. And as I started working through the case and learning the elements, I learned that my brain just clicked with criminal law. The other thing that I learned is I loved working with victims. I enjoyed getting to know them. I enjoyed teaching them about what the criminal process was like. And I also learned that I had enjoyed actually teaching them how to present their case at trial as well. And that's when I realized I need to become a prosecutor. And ever since that day, I started looking for opportunities, and now I am here today. The best part about being a prosecutor right now is we achieve justice, but justice actually comes in a variety of different forms. It's not just winning at trial and going to sentencing. It's also being a facilitator of accountability, meaning the IILC program. Sometimes the justice system allows someone to confront an addiction and have accountability, built-in responsibility, built-in a community to help them overcome their addictions. And I get to be a part of that, and I love that. We don't always want people to go to prison. Sometimes justice is actually allowing someone to admit, I have an addiction, I have a meth problem, and I want to conquer it. And here is an avenue that will allow me to do that. One of the more difficult things about being a prosecutor is not being able to prove your case, because someone is always impacted by that decision. Most of the time, it's victims. We have this great justice system where we have constitutional rights and rules of evidence that provide for someone to have a fair trial. Sometimes that means we cannot prove our case because we're missing evidence. I believe one prosecutor once said, there's what we know to be true, and then there's what we can prove. And it is the most difficult thing to go back to a victim and say, I'm sorry, your son is not here today. We cannot achieve justice in this particular fashion, and grieving with them and processing with them. There are times that I probably will never forget some victims' responses because we were not able to do exactly what they envisioned to do. There are two cases that come to mind, and they actually deal with the victim's responses to our cases. The first one was the case that I discussed earlier and involved a young lady who was being stalked by someone, and she was very brave. You could tell that she had some hesitancy about testifying. Naturally, she was being stalked. She was concerned for her safety. And also, she had had a little bit of interaction with the justice system already. She had some misdemeanors. She had a couple run-ins with the police. But we were able to sit down and say, we don't care about your past history. You have been wronged, and we are here to advocate for you. And in this particular instance, she connected with us and she testified with bravery, and I will never forget seeing her on the stand and seeing how she testified and how clear she was in her testimony. The other case is a case that also involves a victim not wanting to testify. She felt in danger for her life. And despite the conversations that we had, despite us laying out the evidence saying we cannot prove this case without you, she decided to not testify. That taught me two very important things. One, we may not be able to win every single case because the victim may not be able to testify, whether it's good or bad, but still, it taught me to respect the victim's choices and to admire the bravery or the decisions that victims make. There's three misconceptions that come to mind. The first, actually, I was told this by another prosecutor: a monkey can do our job. That's not true. If you are an effective prosecutor, you're looking at the case immediately when you get it. You're thinking about possible resolution, but even more so, You're thinking about the potential issues that are going to arise at trial. That requires you to forward think. It requires you to be diligent and pay specific detail to the cases. But it also involves you to think ahead and talk with the victims to be able to prepare them for what might come forward. It's actually a very difficult job, and we wear many different hats when we're putting together a case effectively. Certainly you can be lazy, but the good prosecutors, like the people here, are not going to do that. The second misconception that I think of is you have to be mean. That's not true. You can be respectful and kind and still be an incredible prosecutor. You do not have to sacrifice your personality or your respectfulness of others in order to achieve justice in the courtroom. Basically, you can win a bunch of trials and still be kind and smile at others, including the defendant as well. The final misconception that I think of is we always want people to go to prison. That is also not true. We are human, we also have common sense, and we represent the state of Ohio. Sometimes that means it's in the best interest of society to not send someone to prison, but rather facilitate their moment when they can be held accountable for their actions and also receive treatment. We have mental health issues, we have serious familial issues, we have past trauma that manifest themselves in different ways. It's not always about prison. Sometimes it's about achieving a better life for someone and for society in general.